Hey, I think it's about time we let go of useless old-timer employees like you, who've been stuck in the same position for ages. I'll talk to the higher-ups about it. You see, I'm related to one of the executives, so it's easy for me to get you fired.
The man in front of me was clearly looking down on me, mocking me. With his attitude, it seemed unlikely that he would have a change of heart and start working diligently. It's painful to crush the future of young people, but it's also for the sake of the company. Well, isn't that a coincidence? I was thinking the same thing. When I said that, I smiled. How should I teach him a lesson? Just thinking about it, I'm Dan Williams. I may be approaching 70, but I don't want to lose to the younger generation. I make sure to stay healthy by going for walks regularly, and I always strive to stay updated with new information using my tablet. Thanks to that, my health check results are excellent, and my hobby, golf, is in great shape. The stationery company I built from the ground up has several hit products, and the performance is decent. I'm grateful for the efforts of all the employees that make this possible. Aside from golf, I have another hobby. It's playing small pranks on the people around me. Of course, it's nothing that would cause real trouble, just little things that can make people smile. I try to keep it in moderation because if I go too far, my secretary or my son, who is the vice president, scolds me. I enjoy seeing people's surprised faces. I also like making them smile. It's important for employees to be happy. That's my goal. Currently, I leave most of the company to my son, who is now almost the executive, and I only do things like checking and stamping. I don't want to lose to the younger generation, but generational change is necessary. In considering the target age for our company's products, we should bring in some youthful energy. I delegate the work to my son, and as for what I'm doing, I'm working on improving the company's environment. Good work comes from a good environment. I hide my slightly lonely head with a wig, change my glasses, and wear a mask. If I clean like that, no one notices that I'm the president. I also sometimes disguise myself as a temporary worker to observe the employees' work. It makes me happy to see everyone working earnestly, with enthusiasm. Today, I plan to go on an inspection visit to the sales department. With my wig of mixed gray hair and stylish glasses, I look like a completely different person. I wonder what fun things will happen this time. Well, the main purpose is the inspection, though. I'm excited as I head to the office. I've already explained the situation to the head of the sales department. My hobby is well known within the company, and it seems they are nervously anticipating when I will visit their department. However, I have no intention of quitting. It seems I've become a good spice, so it's fine. My seat is near the farthest door. So to speak, it's the lower seat. They always prepare it for me. As soon as I take my seat, the young person next to me greets me.
Are you Dan? I'm Smith. Nice to meet you.
The young man with a calm tone greeted me politely to me, even though I was supposedly a temporary worker. Yes, nice to meet you too. I returned the greeting, and Smith proceeded to explain the tasks to me. His explanations were concise and easy to understand, and he asked several times if there were any unclear points. I had a gut feeling that this young man was competent.
Good morning.
At that moment, an unenthusiastic voice came from the door, and a young man with bright hair entered lazily. He sat down heavily in the seat in front of Smith and stretched his body while letting out a big sigh.
Good morning, Dan. This is Johnson. We joined the company at the same time, but
Huh, who's this old guy? A temp worker. Huh. I'm the ace of the sales team, so don't hold me back.
I was taken aback by his haughty attitude, but Johnson, the young man, didn't seem to care about his surroundings and yawned loudly.
Johnson's uncle is apparently one of the company's executives, and he's highly regarded for the future.
Smith responded with a wry smile. While I didn't say it aloud, it was apparent that he was one of those employees who had gotten in through connections. I decided to observe quietly without changing my expression. Johnson's work habits turned out to be worse than I had anticipated. He spent very little time at his desk, often goofing off elsewhere. I spotted him reading magazines at a nearby convenience store or lingering in a coffee shop for extended periods. Sometimes, he even napped or played games in an unused meeting room. But that wasn't all. He would often delegate his tasks to Smith and claim credit for the results with a casual attitude. While Smith would just smile wryly and say, "It's the usual." If this was the usual, it was certainly a problem. Feeling the need to offer some candid advice, I pretended to have business elsewhere and made my way towards where Johnson was slacking off today. The first conference room was vacant. As I pretended to tidy up, I attempted to open the door, but it was locked. However, being the president, I had the master key. I gently unlocked the door, being careful not to make any noise, and inside, I found Johnson lying across several chairs. He was considerate enough to wear an eye mask and appeared to be sound asleep. Around him, there were scattered game consoles, smartphones, and comic books, making it abundantly clear what he had been up to. Wondering how to rouse him as he snored loudly with his mouth wide open, I decided to start by calling out to him. "Johnson, please wake up." However, he showed no signs of waking up. I sighed inwardly and took a balloon out of my pocket. I had it on hand just in case I ever needed to surprise someone. I extended a clip I happened to have in my pocket and poked the balloon. With a loud pop, the balloon burst, startling Johnson awake.
What the?
"Good morning, Johnson," I said with a smile. He seemed momentarily bewildered, but quickly returned to his usual smirking expression.
What's up, the temp guy? You scared me for nothing.
Ignoring his attempt to go back to sleep, I asked, "What about work? Don't we have a big deal coming up soon?"
That's fine if you leave it to Smith. He's insanely diligent, like a total workaholic. Even if I don't do anything, he'll handle everything and even go out of his way to make sure the other side isn't inconvenienced. I'm not cut out for the dull stuff like making documents. It's all about finding the right fit. So I leave the complicated explanations to him, and my job is just to keep the other party in a good mood. If I smile and butter them up, they won't feel bad, and my stock goes up, right? I just need to perform well on the actual day. The steady, day-to-day work is for the others.
Well, that's the way it is. So, it seems he's not particularly helpful during business negotiations or presentations. He simply accompanies them. I wondered if his boss had noticed this, but I denied it. These types are good at putting on a facade. They act arrogantly towards colleagues or those they consider beneath them, while they act servile and ingratiating towards superiors and business partners. It's easy to imagine. In fact, until I saw it with my own eyes, there hadn't been any reports of issues with his work attitude. Is Johnson planning to go back to sleep or just lie down on the chairs he had set up, as if he didn't care that I had discovered him?
I'm still gonna nap. Can you clean up another room? Don't make noise, okay?
Aren't you going back to work?
What, old man? You're giving me orders. You're just a temp, you know. Unbelievable.
He laughed heartily, as if mocking me.
My uncle is an executive in this company. You, on the other hand, can be fired easily. Get it?
I see.
You know, at your age, being a temp and a low-level employee is just ridiculous. You're an old man, and you're incompetent, right? You can't be talking down to me, a guy like you. There's a big difference between you and me.
I felt a slight irritation at his continuous mocking attitude, but I held back. Taking advantage of my silence, he didn't stop his words.
You know, I think it would be better to fire useless old-timers like you, who have been regular employees forever. I'll talk to someone about it. Since I'm related to an executive, it's easy to get you fired. Your future is in my hands. Remember that. Don't forget it, okay?
The man in front of me looked down on me completely, ridiculing and laughing at me. With his attitude, it seemed unlikely that he would change his ways and start working diligently. It's painful to crush a young person's future, but I also have to think about the company's interests. How coincidental, I felt the same way. I said with a smile, "How should I punish him?" That's all I thought about.
Got it. Then get out. Oh, and don't bother telling anyone anything. It's useless. I'll fire you right away. Your future is in my hands. Remember that. Don't forget it, okay?
Saying that, I left him there, laughing, and exited the conference room. In my mind, I was preoccupied with thoughts of how to punish him. The big business deal was about getting a well-known nationwide general store to prominently feature our new products. Our main target audience was young women. The products had a simple design with a variety of colors that could be easily decorated to align with the latest trends. We also offered a range of items like pencil cases, pens, binders, and scissors in the same lineup, with affordable prices that high school and college students could easily afford. Smith was the one carrying several samples in a large box and loading them into the company car. There was still no sign of Johnson, who was supposed to go with us. I decided to approach Smith and offer to help with the sample transportation.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
No problem at all. My boss told me to accompany him for the luggage. Such things weren't explicitly said, but they say lying can sometimes be necessary. I can always tell the sales department manager later. As I contemplated this, Johnson arrived a little past our planned departure time. Johnson had a neat appearance, and if he just stayed quiet, he might have looked like a competent salesman. Well, in sales, you can't afford to stay silent. Johnson lightly greeted us, and without apologizing for being late, he went straight to the back seat and began fiddling with his smartphone. Smith, who seemed accustomed to this, didn't say anything and just got into the driver's seat. I took the front passenger seat, and we headed to the major general store's office.
Hey, old man, if you're here, do I really have to go? Why don't you two go by yourselves? I'll wait here.
After parking the car in the lot, Johnson suddenly started saying such things, lying down in the back seat and taking out a game console from his bag to play.
We told the other side that both Johnson and I would go, didn't we?
Quit your whining. Just tell them something like, our substitute employee is here due to a sudden illness. I don't really like the receptionist over there.
Didn't you talk to her the last time we went?
Did I do that? Well, I'm not going. Just handle it however you want. I don't get why people put so much effort into their work.
Johnson said that and continued playing his game, ignoring any attempts at conversation. Smith let out a sigh as if he had given up and said, "Let's go," urging me to walk with him. With a large box in my arms, I followed him. The president of this company is an old friend of mine, and I've visited the company several times before. Well, as they say, the receptionist seemed to recognize me and hurriedly stood up, but I gestured with my eyes for her to sit back down and remain silent. She turned pale and nodded. Smith, observing this, seemed somewhat puzzled but stayed silent as the representative from the company arrived.
Dan, is it? No, it's nothing.
Smith appeared to be a perceptive guy. With his ability to read the atmosphere, Smith's negotiations went very smoothly, and we were able to successfully conclude the contract. When we returned to the car, Johnson was still playing with his game console. Smith knocked on the car window and called out to him. Johnson didn't seem to mind much and simply raised his head.
You did well. It went smoothly, didn't it?
Well, yes, it did, but...
Oh, old man, don't tell anyone that I didn't go for the negotiation. If you don't want to get fired, you understand, right? Ending up on the streets at your age would be the worst.
Laughing like that, Johnson seemed to be completely making fun of us. I've witnessed decisive moments of him slacking off at work, and I can gather testimonies too. I've decided to call him in tomorrow. The next day, I called Smith and Johnson to the president's office through the head of the sales department. Of course, today I was wearing a neatly tailored suit, ditching the wig I usually wear when performing my president duties. I can't help but look forward to the reactions when they see my real appearance. With a smirk on my face, I waited, and then the door was knocked, and the three of them entered the room. "Hey there, welcome," I said with a smile, but Johnson's attitude didn't seem to change much from usual. It seems he hasn't realized my true identity. Smith, perhaps feeling nervous or uneasy, furrowed his brows, and the department head appeared bewildered, as if wondering why he had been summoned. I received a report that a significant deal was closed yesterday. I heard that you two worked hard on it, and I wanted to express my gratitude. Upon hearing this, the expressions of the three of them brightened, as if a weight had been lifted off their shoulders. It's no wonder. I hardly ever call someone into my office and say something like this. They've never heard of such a thing before.
President,
Johnson stepped forward and said,
your kind words are much appreciated. I've been preparing for this contract for days.
I sensed fear in his smile, a reaction he couldn't hide. Without noticing my demeanor, Johnson continued to speak.
Smith can't do anything unless I tell him to. It's like he has instruction-dependent syndrome or something. So, I took the lead and came up with various ideas.
Johnson spoke to me while using his gaze to hold Smith in check. The department head, appearing puzzled, just watched him and didn't say anything. Watching their dynamic, I sighed and spoke. I see. Actually, we received an inquiry from the other company. Who was the one who explained during the negotiations?
That would be me.
Johnson raised his hand eagerly. But I also heard that there was someone who stayed in the car and played games.
Oh, that's this guy. I told him to behave and listen to me, but he didn't.
Johnson said, pushing the blame onto Smith with a sigh. I felt like I was getting a glimpse of his true character. It seems this guy really only thinks about himself.
Is that so? Smith, I thought you were a very diligent person.
Manager, this guy here is just pretending to be serious. I'm always the one cleaning up after him.
No, that's not true.
Smith tried to deny it but fell silent under Johnson's glare. He must be feeling threatened with his job on the line. However, it seemed a bit too timid for him. As the president, I thought I should steer the conversation. I've heard of it. There's someone who occasionally takes naps in the conference room or lingers at the coffee shop or convenience store, inconveniencing our employees. I thought something needed to be done.
That's him.
Johnson pointed at Smith. Smith hung his head in resignation and clenched his fists. That's strange. Smith has always reported his whereabouts properly, and there shouldn't be any instances of him disappearing like that.
Huh?
Even when I was in the sales department, Smith seemed to be working diligently, and it didn't look like he had time to slack off. At my words, Johnson's eyes widened.
Wait, why was the president in the sales department?
Seeing Johnson tilt his head in confusion, I gave him a cheerful smile. You still don't get it. Look. I said this as I put on the white-haired wig. Of course, this was what I had worn when I infiltrated the sales department. Then, I changed my glasses, and Johnson's face turned pale.
What? It's the temp worker, isn't it?
Johnson, please refrain from shouting.
When the department head interrupted Johnson and advised him to refrain from shouting, Johnson covered his mouth with both hands. Sure enough, even he, as expected, seemed to have realized that he was in the wrong. It was only natural considering how many lies he had told. Yes, I a temp worker. Johnson seemed not to have noticed.
Because he still has hair. Our CEO is.
I won't tolerate any more of that. While Johnson seemed not to have noticed, you, Smith, understood my true identity. Hesitantly, Smith spoke up.
Yes, because you seem to be hiding your identity. I didn't say anything.
I nodded at his words. Indeed, it seems that Smith is quite talented. He can read the room, unlike some others. When I looked in Johnson's direction, he turned pale, his mouth opening and closing as if trying to come up with an excuse. But everything was being observed. He must have realized that making excuses would be futile. Now then, Johnson, you can fire me at any time, right? Because your uncle is an executive. Are you guaranteed a promotion? It's strange. In our company, we can't dismiss anyone without my approval, and being someone's relative shouldn't guarantee a promotion. Your uncle is an executive, isn't he? We should also have a chat with him.
That's...
I stood up and opened the door to the adjacent room, which served as a continuation of the current room. Inside were my son, who was the executive director, and the man who was his uncle.
Johnson, what on earth have you done? Yes, I introduced you when you were job hunting. But that's it. I can't meddle in personnel matters. And we agreed at work that we're just strangers to each other. Using my name to threaten colleagues, that's completely out of line.
As soon as he burst into the room after opening the door, his uncle scolded him fiercely. Already, Johnson had teary eyes. Johnson, do you have anything to say for yourself? I've been observing you closely these past few days. Everything you said earlier was a lie, wasn't it? The successful preparation and execution of our business negotiations were thanks to Smith. On the contrary, it was you who slacked off. The claims of Smith passing off work to others and slacking off were also lies. You're the one doing that, right? Saying this slowly and deliberately, Johnson slumped to his knees. He had some self-awareness of his wrongdoings, but he must have thought he could just shift the blame onto others. His way of thinking was utterly flawed. Before working on rectifying his character, what should be done? First, I need to talk to the other people involved. Now then, Director, can't you manage your subordinates properly? You should have noticed what Johnson was up to if you were keeping an eye on things. Smith taking on an excessive workload. Did you never think of investigating it?
Yes, you're absolutely right.
You probably noticed that Smith was taking on an excessive workload as well, didn't you? Why didn't you investigate?
Yes, it's all my fault. I thought as long as the work was getting done, it was fine.
Understanding your subordinates' job responsibilities is also an important task for a supervisor. You should reflect on this as well. I'll inform you of your punishment later. Don't worry, it won't involve demotion. I'm looking forward to your future performance.
Yes, I'm very sorry.
The manager apologized sincerely. Taking responsibility was part of the job for a supervisor. It meant that if you allowed your subordinates a degree of freedom, there would be corresponding responsibilities. The manager himself was no longer young, but he had been fortunate with his subordinates until now. He had never thought that a situation like this, where he had to take responsibility, would arise. Then, I turned to Smith and said, "Your dedication to your work is truly admirable, Smith. However, if you keep taking on others' burdens like this, you'll eventually burn yourself out. Don't hesitate to ask for help when you need it. That's what you should reflect on this time. Enduring everything is not a virtue. Remember that."
Yes, thank you.
Smith looked at me with determination and replied. His eyes were filled with determination, and I believed that he would continue to do his job well. Sales Department, I want each of you to bring in a detailed account of your job responsibilities. Well, actually, this applies to the entire company. Check if anyone is shouldering an uneven workload or if any employees are pushing themselves too hard. We'll investigate this from now on. I said this, and my son, who was the executive vice president, nodded and began giving instructions to others. Now, Johnson, I haven't given you a lecture yet. Starting from tomorrow, you'll be my direct subordinate. I want you to assist me with various tasks.
The president's direct subordinate. Seriously, that's a promotion.
Johnson's downcast expression suddenly transformed into a bright smile. However, I dropped a bombshell at this moment. Well, starting tomorrow, I won't be the president anymore. Those present, except for the executive vice president, widened their eyes in surprise. I hadn't announced this within the company yet, but I wanted to see their surprised expressions. Seeing surprised expressions on their faces even at this moment, I was satisfied. I'll be stepping down from the position of president. Starting tomorrow, I'll be a rehired employee. Johnson, as my direct subordinate, I want you to work on improving the working environment within the company.
Improving the working environment?
Like cleaning, managing supplies, and stuff. I'd like you to start by cleaning small garden next to the entrance tomorrow. I'm counting on you. Oh, by the way, let's make your salary performance-based. The more effort you put in, the more you learn.
Ed, really? Seriously?
Johnson had started repeating the same words over and over. Well, the idea that the more effort you put in, the more you can earn also means that if you slack off, you won't make a dime. Starting tomorrow, I had decided to stand by his side and thoroughly reform his character. After a while, following the reevaluation of our company's operations, we started hearing that the workplace had become even more comfortable. It seemed that Smith, without Johnson taking credit for his achievements, was rapidly making a name for himself. He was the top employee in terms of performance, and there were times when other companies specifically requested Smith for sales. I secretly hoped that with his talents, he could become my son's right-hand man. Since stepping down as president, I could now focus on my long-time hobby, which was observing the company from within. Occasionally, he discovered problems and quietly conveyed them to the responsible parties or worked to resolve them. It was like being an investigator within the company, and he found it enjoyable, as per Johnson's account. Despite initially thinking he might dislike tasks like cleaning and weeding, he surprisingly performed them diligently. He seemed to find it refreshing and enjoyable to witness visible improvements as things became cleaner. He had never done any cleaning when he was growing up, having been pampered since childhood, but when he tried it as part of his job, he apparently had a knack for it. With his relatively straightforward personality, I thought that with a combination of rewards and punishments, he might also become a capable individual. Today, it was time to tend to the small garden in front of the entrance. I would replant and prune the flowers beautifully with each season, delighting the eyes of those who visited the company. Taking care of these flowers was almost like a hobby for me, and since some people look forward to seeing what kind of flowers would bloom, I put quite a bit of effort into it.
Former President, I'm exhausted. I might even get heat stroke.
Oh my, is it that time already? I tend to lose track of time when I'm deeply engrossed in something, so I'm truly grateful when Johnson says things like this. My son, who has become the president of the company, and my family, in general, seem to appreciate that he unconsciously takes care of my health. Let's take a short break. Here, Johnson, take a look at my hands. Saying this, I produce a piece of salt water toffee out of my seemingly empty hand. It's a simple sleight of hand, but he reacts dramatically with amazement, which makes it fun for me too.
Whoa, former President, your hands are magical.
I find his laughter dazzling. The words he once used, putting the right person in the right place, come to mind now. While Johnson may not have been entirely willing to work under me, seeing him enjoy his work like this, I can't help but think it might have been for the best. If he had stayed in sales, it might have turned into a tough situation later on. Within the framework of a company, everyone has a role to play. Fulfilling those roles properly is essential as a working professional. To ensure that all employees work happily, those on the management side must continue to make efforts as well. After all, human resources are invaluable,